Welcome to Artist Trauma. This installment we did Alice at the Fire by Jan Fosse. That's how we say his name, right?
Sure, I'm just calling him John, but it's Jan. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Jan.
Fosse. Yeah.
Yeah, Fosse. Okay.
He's
Yeah.
he's a living, he's alive, he's old, and he's been writing to the best of my knowledge, the same book for the last 30 years. Um his most critically acclaimed and probably why he won the Nobel was the septology. But this is kind of a good introduction. But honestly, I mean, he's just is what he is. You hate him or love him, but it's just so obviously you read 4 pages and you go, it's hard to tell if it's AI John Fosse or if it's John Fosse, but so I mean, what is he? He's a minimalist, and we haven't really read much minimalism. Beckett a little. And it's pretty specifically repetitious, torturous, if you
Yeah,
will.
let me give the readers a sense of just how it opens. I see Signe lying there on the bench in the room, and she's looking at all the usual things: the old table, the stove, the wood box, the old paneling on the walls, the big window facing out on the fjord. She looks at it all without seeing it, everything as it was before, and nothing has changed, but still everything's different. She thinks because since he disappeared and stayed gone, nothing is the same anymore. She's just there without being there. The days come, the days go, nights come, nights go, and she goes along with them, moving slowly without letting anything leave much of a trace and make much of a difference. And does she know what day it is today? It's just
It
it's like
goes,
that.
yeah.
It's like that for like 100 pages. This little novella.
And you kind of, for me, the experience of reading this twice was pretty different. The first time I was just kind of like, it was kind of like a spiritual, just slowly
It has a
unveiling.
rhythm. It has a definite rhythm that like
Yeah.
you know
The second time I have a little bit more of like the problem is very specific is that if you already know the extent of the revelation, I found the second time pretty Chinese water torture. I don't
Yeah,
know. I had trouble. I
yeah,
really did.
I was I think there's a lot of finesse to this work. Like
Oh yeah, there's a
very
lot going
very
on.
well finished in a certain way, and it does have a rhythm you get into, but it was
Were you also tortured or
uh
just bored maybe? I don't know.
I
It's
was
kind of
never
hard.
bored. I was
Okay.
never bored by it, but it was painful in a certain almost saccharine way for me. It was very interesting. Like I'm very glad I engaged with this object. It's
Yeah.
an excellent contrast to what I like in Beckett, who's just very simple and very simple statements, very bare kind of statements in Beckett, but it's going places, and it here it just felt so much more uh, circular, but not in a way where like the repetition really tells you something new each time. It felt more like, yeah, this is more like a narration of the sort of dead end thoughts that you get, and you're not learning more about the dead endness. So you're not sort of
Right.
deepening into the beginning, as it were,
Yeah.
just sort of saying the same thing. That was my feeling about the whole work.
I mean, I feel that. I think that in this work, it sort of works because it makes the ending really good. I really liked the last 2 pages. I thought the last 2 pages were the best writing in the whole book because it's like, the horror of this guy who died 30 years ago. And you kind of feel like she reaches a point of like, okay, he's not going to come back. And then it's like, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. So I like, I mean, it literally breaks off like,
Yeah, I mean, it's
what?
a mid sentence.
Yeah.
But by the way, just to be clear, like this is a book just about like death and mourning and
The plot's very simple. I mean, it's a lady lying on a bench thinking about how her husband went out one night on a boat and never came back. A lot about boats and fjords.
yeah, a
A lot of,
lot,
lot of
which
boat shit in there. It
which was a
felt very
little,
Northern European.
which is like,
I got a little tired of the boats, to be honest with you.
yeah, I got a little fucking tired of hearing the word fjord. Um,
I get it. You live a boring rural Nordic life. Like, goddamn. And I know that's again, that's part of it. Like everything we kind of say critical is also kind of part of it, right? Like it's minimalism, right? It's just that's what this is.
yeah, it's I mean, as in maybe it's successful in what it's trying to do, but so are the Transformers movies. Um, you know.
Oh, it's
Uh,
a little
so
deeper than the Transformer movies.
well, no, I just mean in the sense of like, maybe it's like it's successful in what it's doing, but it's not a worthwhile end. That's a question mark in my mind. Um,
I mean, it's hard. Yeah, it's a question mark in my mind too, right? Like, so I love so the ending. It's like he shows back up again. You need to come to bed too, which is kind of double signified, right? It's come to bed to die, and also, ha, I'm back, haha. And and she looks at him, and then she looks away from him into the emptiness, and then she lays both her hands on her stomach, and she folds her hands, and I hear Signe say, "Dear Jesus, help me! You have to help me, you." And I like that just sudden breaking away and horror at his coming back. I just think it's great. I wish there was more of that.
yeah, my thing is I don't these sorts there were a lot of things of like that were odd in the book of like it isn't just about like mourning, it's also like there's just a couple of weirdo things happening like
Like the floating boat moment, like what the hell was going on with this weird boat in the intergenerational toyness of it? That was so weird.
yeah, and also just like it's like seeing your husband's grandmother with her great grandmother. I'm a little confused about what about that, but seeing her with her son who you're named after, so like some kind of weird uncle, I guess. um and they're like burning at a pyre, like goat heads, and it's described like putting like a stick through like the throat hole of the goat head and then burning it for a while. And like what the fuck is this just regular husbandry stuff? Like I'm just sort of baffled.
Yeah, and on my first, it's kind of funny. My experience is different. On a first read, I think I was latching on to oh, look, something new under the sun. This is great. Like this is a new style. This is really interesting. And I really was like in with this whole repetition of grief. On the second time through, I actually like couldn't quite connect everything in this book. Like I almost wanted to, if it was kind of unfocused. It's so weird to say that as a minimalist work, right? Like, on the one
Yeah,
hand, it's so repetitious, but on the other hand, I'm like, why are the generations here? I get it on a certain level, but like zero in on his loss, just zero in on that, and it would be more successful. There doesn't need to be a doppelganger. I don't know why. It was like, oh,
yeah, it's
someone else died 100 years ago, and I was like, well, okay, sure, whatever.
yeah,
And deep
it
sense.
a lot of these moves are familiar to me of like,
Right.
oh, like in some way like the event that you lived through of like the death of like your husband was somehow presaged or preordained in this sort of odd way by this other event in the past. And maybe it's not literally that way, but there's this uncanniness to it. And like I swear I've seen this sort of thing before in at least I don't know, maybe ancient works, certainly one or two modern ones, and I'm just little
Yeah, it's a
in the Magic Mountain in this weird way, like that actually happens of like he falls, Hans Castor falls in love with this strange Russian lady who reminds him of a boy he had a strange crush on when he was like 10.
yeah. Yeah,
And
I
it's
mean
like they
it's just a
constantly
let
reference this, like, oh
yeah.
yeah, she has the Shibboleth eyes of him, and he also borrowed a pencil from her, and it works there because it's like you get a sense of how life has this odd, heavy uncanniness to it, like the symbolism sticking out. Like Thomas Mann does that very successfully in my mind, and like this is like, well, I don't actually see the connection. This is a thing
Yeah.
that happened 80 years ago. Like it doesn't,
I mean,
nobody's actually
other than the
emotionally
basic
connected
like
to this.
other than just a basic like it's the family house, it's generations. Like it's kind of just the general trope, but I want something specifically meaningful.
Yeah, and it's not like I think also Faulkner in this like Light in
Yeah.
August has this kind of thing where there's this preacher character who sort of just lives in the basically the myth of his grandfather and like how he died in the Civil War.
Mm.
And it's like it matters. Like, yeah, you can see how he grew up with that. You can see how that sort of moral image just sort of carried through his household and had this well, you might also say detrimental effect on his development. Um, and that's really effective. That's
Right.
really effective because it's actually like there's a logic to that symbol hanging over them. But I don't see how, like, well, what the fuck does this kid who died like 100 years, 80 years ago, 80 and 100 years ago, what does that mean to anybody? It's not explained. And one thing I also have to say about all of this is there's no characters. Like nobody's really fleshed out in my mind. Like there's little kind of touches, but like when I read Beckett, it's like, oh, these are like distinctive, interesting characters we're getting, throughout
I think
this.
he's kind of the opposite type of writer. That doesn't bother me at all because he's not even trying. Like there's not even like that. Like
Yeah,
it's more like
let's put it this way. There's like five different ways of expressing yourself, and it's like, okay, characterization, plot, style, whatever. And it's like, okay, well, characterization, that's like one thing that's not here, which, okay, we have other things, but I wasn't getting the other things.
but he has black hair. I think it's more basic than that. I don't that none of that like I don't know what you're talking about with the five basic
No,
things.
I know. I just mean
Love
like
like
I'm not saying like just like five basic things. Just like there's just like you need things, and it's like, okay, you're talking about this woman's sense of loss, and it's like I just wanted something more, some like better sense of this creature, and like you don't have to do it in like the traditional naturalistic novel kind of way.
well, I
I
felt
think
like he
the
was trying to do that with the weird stuff. Like it was more like all I don't think it was successful, but I think that's what he was trying to do.
I guess
Is like her disordered mind is like bringing up these generations because I kept having to remind myself that like the meaning of this book has to always be filtered through her consciousness conjuring up all this because it's
yeah,
very deliberately put that way, right? And there are certain moments where it's like, oh, and now we're in his head, but that's fake, right? Because we're really in her head imagining it what,
yeah,
his head
yeah.
would
No,
be.
I agree with that. It's all stream of consciousness from her in this odd way, although it's just sort of it's just weird to me. Like, well, why would this thing 100 years ago be so vivid to you? Why would it connect on that same level with you as like the death of your husband? Um,
Maybe it's, I think there might be just more approachable this fantasy versus the because like the traumatic real for this is that she can't obvious I mean it's very simple. She can't get over the death of her husband, right? He's just keeps coming back. And that's sometimes I feel like maybe don't overthink it. Because he tells it, okay, like this is what I mean. Like, okay, so like, and this is why I kind of liked it at first. Maybe it was partially reading Crash to Horkai with his long sentences, but like there's literally a character. We do get characterization, remember, of the husband. He don't like long words.
I actually was like pained by that little bit, and I actually
Was
like
that bad?
I
It
highlighted
felt
it.
bad, right? That felt like
Yeah,
bad,
because
right?
I just it was just such like a banal cliche kind of modernism of like, oh no, this is a
He's
point
the
that you make.
man.
Yeah, and it's like it's on
Yeah,
his
can you read it so
yeah,
everyone?
no, I got it
This
right
it
here.
really bothered me the second time. The first time I was like, "Oh, John Fosse is expressing his aesthetics." The second time I'm like, and it's really bad to do it right here. God damn.
Yeah, so this is about like a letter he wrote, and it's like, um a letter came and he wrote how hard it
Hmm.
had been to find out her address, wrote a little about day-to-day life, not much more than that, just a couple words, a few short ordinary words, no big words in any case, but it was enough. He didn't need anything more, and she answered, yes, of course she did. And it was a little embarrassing to think about the letter she sent, she thinks, because even if he didn't really know what to make of big words, she did. She wrote big words, but she can't think about that because if there was one thing he didn't like, it was big words. They just lied and covered things up, those big words. They didn't let what really was live and breathe, but just carried it off into something that wanted to be big. That's what he thought. And that's how he was. He liked the things that didn't want to be big, she thinks, in life, in everything. And that's how it was with his boat, too, a little wooden boat, a little rowboat. And it's like, okay, yeah, that is a theme of modernist literature, as it were, uh, that like, oh, words in some way like distort or cover up the immediately sensed reality. Like Sartre and
Yeah.
Nausea spends a lot of time on that specific issue, and it's something that comes up a bit here and there, and like Faulkner again. Um, but it's like, oh, you just don't like big words? And like, well, what specific quality?
Well,
Tell me
I
more
think,
about this thought you're having. Don't just repeat to me what every other modernist has said for the last 80 years.
yeah. Do you feel a little like, okay, that was my least favorite moment of the whole novel. So let's talk about it. Because I actually on this one, I felt completely different than Coetzee after really thinking about it. I was like, no, no, no. He's like like John Fosse's he's a real writer. Like he's doing there's stuff going on here, and I want to talk about it. But that doesn't mean it doesn't mean it works for me. I actually I don't always think it works in Beckett either. I'm gonna give I don't, there's ups and downs. But for this, I thought it was pretty bad because there's a fine line between saying they're hardy peasant stock and calling them dumb as fuck. So I felt like there's sort of like a weird like it characterizes him as sort of like I got this sense that he's trying to not exist even in reality. Like the characterization here is all negative, right? It's like, oh. And so it was almost a shadow to begin with. He doesn't talk much. He goes to his boat. He's even in life, there's this tension where he's not present, right? Like he's always leaving her for the boat. But the negative of that, right, is that it makes him sound simple to me, like deeply, deeply simple.
Yeah.
I mean, did it make, I mean, was it too minimal? It was too minimal almost. Like, it was like, okay, yeah, but like, is he a bog witch or a man? Like, what
Yeah,
is,
there wasn't, all I sort of got was like, oh, he likes to go out for walks. He likes to go on his boat regularly for some reason. And there's good reasons to go out on your boat, but like none of it's kind of put there. He's like, I guess he's sort of thinks about his great grandmother. Um,
well, no, he doesn't. She thinks he does.
Yeah, she thinks he does. So I would guess there's something from that. But yeah, I mean, he doesn't like big words.
Doesn't like big word. But
There's so little like
but we already,
anything.
yeah, but we already got that at the opening when he fails. Like, I actually contrast that. I like it at the opening when he tries to say things but fails.
Yeah, as in
That did the work. That did all the work. That was it. We did. That was all we needed. We don't need. He don't like big words. We just need his failure to really appear.
yeah, I mean, I problem started with the beginning and how it goes. Like, let me just give the first bit of dialogue. The woman is Signe and the man is Asle, however pronounce these Norwegian names.
I've been pronouncing him Isle.
Isle. I'll call it Isle. Fuck it. There you are, Signe says, and he turns to her, and she sees that the darkness is also in his eyes. I guess I am. Yes. Isle says. That's not much to look at out there, Signe says. No, nothing, Isle says, and he smiles at her. No, just darkness, Signe says. Just darkness, yes, Isle says. Then what are you looking at? Signe says. I don't know what I'm looking at, Isle says. But you're standing there in front of the window, Signe says. I am, Isle says. But you're not looking at anything, Signe says. No, Isle says. But why are you standing there then? Isle says. Yes, I mean, she says. Yes, you thinking about something? She says. I'm not thinking about anything, Isle says. What are you looking at? Signe says. I'm not looking at anything, Isle says. And it goes on, and then it eventually on the next, like on page 8, what are you thinking about? Signe says. No, nothing special, Isle says. No, Signe says. I guess Isle says. Yes, he says. And he stands there and he looks at her. He says. I, I, yes, well, I'll just, he says. You, Signe says. Yes, Isle says. You'll, Signe says. Isle says. I guess I'll go out onto the fjord for a while, he says. And I mean, I want to say there's something kind of fun about
It,
that kind of awkwardness and just, but it's like I'm
I
not.
love it. I have no critique because it's like a photograph burning. It's great.
It just I don't like that part. I feel it's not giving me enough like what's happening? Like, well, what are these people like? I'm just sort of getting this fumbling. It reminds me of this show I watched a few episodes of because of a ex-girlfriend. It's called Easy, and has this very natural, no, not quite, very realistic dialogue, or I don't know how he'd put it. Just everything's so spaced out and trying to sound like people who don't quite know what they're saying, and I just felt like I was dying whenever I watched it.
Well, I mean, I feel like I'm dying when I'm reading this, but I actually I actually really like this. And here's
Yeah.
why is that like often when we start like you list things that literature does. You know, like you value characterization or whatever you value. I don't care. I'm just here to be hit with something. Just hit me with an experience. I don't care. I'm going with it. And I think it does it here. I think it because what I think of is just like her mind slowly melting away into fire. It reminds me of William Basinski's The Disintegration Loops, which are these pieces of music from an electronic artist who they had become like moth-eaten over 30 years. And he released them, but looped them until they fully fell apart. So you just get little snatches of sound until finally they just mold away. So my problem with this novel is kind of the opposite. The reason why I don't want to go into the generations and see all the horse's head or sheep's head or whatever is because I think it doesn't disintegrate far enough. I think the ending disintegrates great, and I think this is totally just erasure. It's great. But once we start going into the past, my problem with it is that it's too like plentiful.
Yeah, I know. I get. Well, I mean, the only reason why I mentioned like, oh, what literature does is like, well, I don't. It didn't hit me this book, and I'm just sort of mentioning like, well, there's various dimensions that like usually things are trying to do things in. And I'm just mentioning, oh, it didn't have this, it didn't have that. Um, so I that like that's part of what it was for me. But like, I mean, I'm just gonna like read a part of the Unnameable, which also is like very light punctuation. Um, this is towards the end. Um, I hope I can do it some kind of justice. Um, I know to make me think it's mine has no interest in eyes. It says I have none, or that they are no use to me. And then it speaks of tears, then it speaks of gleams. It is truly at a loss. Gleams, yes, far or near, distance, measurements. Enough said gleams as at dawn, then dying as at evening, or flaring up. They they do that too. Blaze up more dazzling than snow for a second. That's short. Then fizzle out. That's true enough. If you like, one forgets. I forget. I see nothing. Or I'll see it's all in my head. Or as if I've felt a head on me. That's all hypotheses, lies, these gleams too. They were to save me. They were to devour me. They came to nothing. I see nothing, either because of this or else on account of that. I mean, basically the whole thing with the unnameable is like this character who is not even sure he exists. Like he's in a constant state of like, is it me speaking or is it someone speaking through me? Like I have these memories. Are they my memories? What could they possibly constitute? Like there's this radical like well, as you're saying, disintegration.
Or like a maybe this is gonna sound like a German translation, unhomeliness, unheimlich, like internal unhomeliness,
Mhm.
like unhomed. Yeah.
Yeah, and like when I just read, the unnameable, it's like yes, we're having that kind of disintegration. We're also having, I mean, it's very minimal as it were. You don't get a lot of things being given to you in a more concrete fashion, but I just feel like I'm gaining things. I feel that sort of uh,
Forward motion.
accelerating.
Do you even feel that in Worst Word Ho? Because I can't even read it.
I
I've
haven't
tried to
read
read it
that one.
like
I
10
haven't read
times.
that one.
Oh, yeah. It's just like, I mean, again, it's classic Beckett on the one hand, but I don't feel that forward motion. And another thing I miss with Beckett, and maybe this is where you say saccharine, we might have just a different in preferences.
Mm.
Like I like, and Anna's gonna kill me on this because that's like their favorite writer, but like I don't enjoy Beckett. I love him, obviously. Like he's a great writer. I respect him. Like I respect Wagner's Parsifal. But there's been very few moments in any Beckett that I go, I like that. So
Yeah,
for me, reading Beckett is purely aesthetic. Fosse, I actually like him. Like I think there's problems in here, but I actually like the writing and I like the like I feel so just in the first person phenomenology, just like, oh, we're not outside, we're not character painting, we're just in. I weirdly, even though it may not be as great as Beckett, I enjoy reading it more. I don't mind the torturousness. Whereas with Beckett, I like can't read him.
yeah. Well, I mean, I've read the trilogy twice, and for me, it's like the first time was baffling and just very difficult. And I remember like only sort of after listening to a an audiobook version, it was like, oh, okay, I'm getting the voice. I'm understanding how these things fit together, and I'm also just getting the sense of like every sentence is contradicted. Every bit of this is characterizing this ruined intellect. Um, and I got into it, and I feel just joy when I read Beckett. Like it's just something that like it's.
Inner passively, that makes me have joy because I'm like, oh, good, you and my wife, like everyone around me.
I'm not shaming you. Like I'm just
No,
saying.
no. Well, and also, and I'm not saying Beckett, like, I think it's a different statement, right? If I was like, Beckett is not a good writer, you'd be like, what the fuck? Like, and that's not what I'm saying, obviously. Like,
Yeah,
it's more like reading, like when I read Proust, every moment of Proust, I go, that's really good.
yeah.
Close it
It's
down.
exhausting,
And
Proust.
I, for some reason, even though I say John Fosse's exhausting, I've read like five of his books now. So, and I wonder if it's partially creative, like if I like the style, I'm inspired by it. But I also objectively sit back and I go, yeah, Beckett's definitely better, deeper of a thinker, you know? Fosse is more repetitious, more circular. But there is this dissonance in my brain where I do enjoy Fosse more. And I don't know why that is.
Yeah, it's I mean Fosse has a certain rhythm to him, like that I grant. I just I'm just not getting enough in terms of just information rate. When I'm reading him, I'm not getting enough like just little things about like the main character, for instance, like how she's thinking about things. Like, reading like Sound and the Fury, it's like, oh yeah, it's just it's very bare. It's very simple. At least the Benji section is very bare in a certain way. Like it just sort of happens multiple times. Like she smelled like rain, or something
Yeah,
like that.
I think it's kind of like I think one problem with this novel too that I would agree with is it's almost like it's either too much or not enough. So like if you want to truly be human consciousness where everyone relates from the first person perspective, a true everyman, then it's almost like the stuff that sullies that is the content in a weird way instead of the pure grief of repetition. Like I can think of this as like a really sublime 20-page short story with just repetition of him leaving and arriving without any relatives. And I think that's how I want to read this story is I want to take away all that. I almost want to, and I think that then it becomes more universal.
Yeah, I would
You know,
like
do you see what
that.
I mean? Like if there
No,
was no
I think I would like
characterization.
that too.
Yeah,
Like
because that
because
would be more universal. Other than that, then you're totally right. You need specifics of something.
yeah, I think it would be better if it removed the grandmother stuff because it just was like, well, what is this even doing here? What is this trying to say? I'm not. It doesn't relate. It feels like, and I don't know. It'd almost be like it'd be interesting if it was almost like, oh, we have two different episodes to the novel, as it were, and like maybe they're interstitched together in a certain way of like, oh, like there's this thing with how it was in 1897 when this happened, and now it's how it is now, and that would be better, but it doesn't work when you're like in the deep subjectivity of this woman. Like, well, why are you spending this time with her on this? Why is this so heavy there? And just
Yeah,
just
yeah, it's weird. I also did this I did a count of the periods of the whole novel because I was kind of getting like, what the fuck? Because the first time it was very jarring, right? You're like, oh, I guess it's not one sentence. It should have been one sentence, is my findings. Like, I don't know. Like, I get it. You broke it. Oh, it's more jarring, but it wasn't jarring enough because the content wasn't jarring. So it just continued with the same, but it had a period. And it didn't actually stop the motion. So there were periods like 33 and then a whole bunch between 83 and 85 and then on 96. And I can't numerically make any formal statements about it. It just is kind of random. Those are moments where it starts over, obviously, and the repetition begins again.
yeah, maybe
But
Norwegian it makes more sense possibly.
yeah,
I just want to give him a little space there, and like when I'm the unnameable, like we'll have pages of
uh,
just commas between these staccato thoughts that keep coming out. And then
same thing with
there's a period.
Krasznahorkai. Krasznahorkai, have writes often in one sentence novels.
Yeah, and I don't really have a. I mean, you kind of need sentences in a certain way with this book because there's dialogue going on. I think that's relevant, and especially like this weird sort of fractured dialogue where it's like Assel says, Signe says, and then there's like a line break. And like, well, if you're making a line break, that's a sentence.
That's
That's
fine. Yeah.
like yeah, you have to do it that way.
I
Uh,
kind of like that because it makes a smooth surface. It's not hard to read, obviously. I mean, there's no big words, but it's not, I mean, that doesn't bother me at all. Like, I just thought that it could have been cool to be a little more jarring at the moments where he did introduce punctuation. Basically, it's a formal maneuver, right? So she always goes A, B, C, D, and then loops back to A. And the periods were at the moment where I think John Fosse was seeing it start over again. And I liked that. I just wish there was a little more oomph behind it.
yeah, and well, the way you have oomph is just. I just wish the things felt like they meant things more often. I mean, to me, it did just feel in a big way like a sort of a cheap version of Beckett a lot of the time, where it's like, yeah, okay, we have this little thing about big words, It's like, where it gets more philosophical for a second, and it's like, well, Beckett has like, 100 of those in Malloy. Where it's like there's just some little generalized statement that's like really like, oh God, that's just wonderful to say that like I'm lost in a world of like nameless objects and objectless names. And it's like that's great. That's great. I'm butchering it a little, but like that's just such a
Yeah,
fun
but like
thing.
I've never once related to anything by Beckett other than maybe Crap's Last Tape. Whereas John Fosse I relate to, like the way it's presented out of grief is like that's more like how I experience things.
Yeah,
So like,
yeah.
I guess there's a certain morbid joy for me when reading Beckett and being like, that's weird, but I don't like relate to anything in it. And I know that's not always the goal of literature, obviously, but like again, it goes back to that enjoyability thing where with Fosse, I still enjoy everything. I found it kind of interesting that I could just go into this lady's consciousness and go into her hallucinations and like that it worked somehow. I was able to do that. Uh-oh, you're frozen.
Yeah, yeah. I just was trying to change the camera in a certain way and was just trying my luck. Um,
And I think Ray, this is a point we hit a bunch of times where I think we read for different reasons because like not in a bad way, like in a good way. Because I mainly read for inspiration in my own writing. And like I'm like, oh yeah, like Elicit the Fire, the John Fosse, like there's a lot of stuff in there that I took inspiration from that I felt like, oh, I can do something like that in my own work. But I do it this way and I do it that way. And like where we meet up, of course, is the enjoyment of art. But I don't know, like I think there may be some differences in why we read.
yeah, I mean, for me, I read things because I want to be a better person and I like the process of becoming a better person. Like I want to be shown something new about life that I never knew about before or that is being crystallized here in a very intense way. And that's just a very wonderful experience. Like when I read Beckett, it's like, oh God, yeah, yeah, this is this kind of intellectual impotence. Yeah, this is me all the time. Like just these little ways I'll contradict myself, little uh like obviously stupid obsessions, these ruminating attitude. It's like it's or just like when I don't know the reality of what's the situation. It's like, yeah, yeah, this is me. And I just told him as like this character in my head, this personality that I always refer to. Um, a sage, as it were.
Yeah.
A sage with his own faults, but a sage. And that's what I want out of literature. And Fosse, it's like, okay, this is, I mean, doing something like there's material worked here, but it's not giving me enough of like that new fundamental attitude. It's like, okay, yeah, like I, it was I think reasonably effective that like just that cyclical way of talking, but I'm not going to remember these characters. I'm not going to. There's no moment that stands out to me except, well, the moment you hate. We both hate.
I
Like
don't like that
it's
moment. He should never have written those words. And again, like I know it's in Norwegian, but I can't imagine that it's that different. I mean, it's very simple words. It's not like it's going to suddenly become super complicated.
yeah. I don't.
It's not Navajo code talkers we're talking
Yeah,
here.
I'm just. It's so obnoxious that line. I don't like the big word. I guess you don't like fucking Faulkner. Like what's going on here? Beckett likes big words. He uses them a lot. He'll just say stuff like weird
Well,
technical
the
logical
problem
terms.
the problem is
That
not that okay, so and this is what I like about John Fosse is I like that he doesn't that it's all very simple and it gets me to some new experiences of grief of life. For me, it was pretty new. I felt like wow, this is a totally new subjectivity. I was with that. all of my critiques aside, I was like, yeah, Fosse for me does it in a different way. I've never seen it like that. And it's important that it's not using complicated concepts to do it. Now, then saying you're not using complicated concepts is stupid because you just already are not using complicated concepts. I don't I thought that was like I think he flinched there. I think that's my problem with it. Actually, here's my critique of this novel, and we'll probably rate it totally differently, is at this core, I think there's a brilliant work in here, and he just kept flinching.
Eh,
Like, when he flinching, like, oh God, I gotta put this thing over here. Yeah, because I think at its core, there's really great stuff in here.
I mean, I think there's talent. I think there's a certain rhythm he gets into it. I think there's a certain it's very I think it's reasonably deftly handled, like these transitions between states that goes on. There's things going on here, but I just ultimately
Well, does that go
I
with your?
can't suffer it. I couldn't put myself through this one again. It feels like it
Well,
was
but
very
that goes back
interesting.
to my opening problem, which is reading this twice kind of sucked. Like, and so this is where I kind of like have a problem in my own brain because think about going through all that repetition you just went through again. And then I will give you there's a problem here. Whereas like I'm always willing to try Beckett again, obviously.
Mhm.
Obvious. Like I mean, it's not like my problem is not like I mean, it's not like an actual problem. I mean, I
Mhm.
love literature, so it's not a real problem, but I do think there is a problem when the book for me wasn't as successful on the second time.
By the way, like, why do you feel it's called Alice at the Fire?
I read a note and apparently it could have also been translated as Aliss in Flames.
Oh yeah, that was another thing. Is like he's seeing the fire, and it's there's like a person inside the fire. Like, where is this coming from? Um, yeah.
Well, I think that's sort of the grounding metaphor of the whole work is that consciousness and loss is like something on fire. That's why he can't speak. It's like the text is getting burned up. And for me, that holds everything together.
I I don't know. I don't know. Um, I mean, I can see that. I'm not arguing against it. The whole Elise at the fire scene just didn't.
Like,
It just
it's
doesn't
not that I
connect. It doesn't
disagree,
connect.
Chris. It's that I don't give a shit.
Yeah. It's just like,
Shit, this is
yeah,
just that I
okay, like
don't care,
that's a
Chris.
move. That's a metaphor. Just like it happened a while ago where our friend Matt, I was talking with him about the painter Franz von Stuck, and I really, really loved that guy when I was younger. And I still think he has talent there. But I was like, we are talking about one of his paintings, Inferno, and Matt was like, "Hey, this is adolescent, what we have here." And I kept looking at it, and I was like, "But I mean, look at this! Like, I look at this like very congested composition he has, and look at the way he repeats these forms, and look at like the surprising expression on that face, and sort of like the blood-like fire in the back." I keep giving abstractions, and it's like, "Yeah, Ray, but it doesn't work." And it's like, "Yeah, it doesn't work." Um, it was just like a funny episode, and like that's kind of my reaction. It's like, yeah, okay, yeah, that's a fine idea. It didn't work for me. Um,
I had that with the Coetzee where my first thought was, oh, this is really great. And then I was literally convinced it wasn't by you. And then when I reread passages, I was like, it's yeah. But then I got
yeah,
sad, right? You get this sad, but I mean, obviously we have to live in the light of truth. So like, I mean, we both agree this is not like a masterpiece. I think that just the varying shades in the middle is where we disagree.
yeah, it's
I'm willing to, I think he's a really good writer. And I really enjoy his work. Um, but more importantly for my ends, what he does inspires me to make art.
Mhm.
And I think that's a trickier thing to pin down because it's not really objective.
Well, I mean, I can definitely see, like, actually, I see that more here. Like, I can just see like certain like moves and the repetitions and like like just aspects of that. Like, yeah, like that could inspire something. And like there's a lot of like paintings I've seen where it's like that guy Beksinski, that painter of like horrifying Polish landscapes, hellscapes. It's like I see a lot of interesting ideas in his paintings. It's bad because it's all just so overdone. It's like just choose one idea, buddy, and just work on that. Like don't do these four things at once. It would be
Yeah,
much
he's like a
better. Less
Comic-Con
is more.
painter.
Less is more, please.
But he does inspire me, the
Yeah,
Brzezinski guy. Like,
no, no,
I want him on my wall. Like awesome, but kind of more in the way that like Comic-Con.
yeah,
I don't know. No, it's like, yeah. No, I mean, I can, and I'm willing to give you that too for John Fosse. I really wanted to do this one because I was so enthused the first time reading it. And then I was even in my mind thinking about it, going, I don't know, let's talk about it. Because I had some parts where I didn't know even at the end of the first time. And the second time reading it, I definitely don't know. And I do wonder if there is erroneous speech, which I would give him well, a little bit of laziness. My one critique of his writing is a little laziness, which is not good. Like
yeah.
laziness in
It's
construct.
yeah. I mean,
So
there's just stuff in here that like there are certain lines. I mean, just like that. What was it? Big words line. Where it's like what that just feels lazy. This thought pattern.
I think I
And
know why he did it. Can I tell you why my theory? But
why do you do it?
I don't like it. But I think this is why I think it bridges the gap between the doppelgangers. Yeah, you see what I mean? Where it's the kid, the 7-year-old versus the dead man. And so speaking that way is sort of childlike and brings back the kid thing. Here's the problem. I have two problems with that. First, that's not how the kid talks when he does talk. And second of all, I think that's kind of dumb.
Yeah,
But I think
yeah,
that's why he did it.
yeah. That seems plausible to me. I'm not sure, but it feels like a it feels believable. Um, I guess there's just moments where it's like the mother is the grandmother, great grandmother is like reaching down to sort of get the kid out of the water, and she says, "No, you've really done it now." Aliss says. I look away for a second. You run right into the water. She says. You can't be trusted. She says. Now how could that happen? She says. It's just sort of like no, you've really done it now. It's like this is cliche. Like this is not good. You can't be trusted. No, how could that happen? It's like that's not I'm not getting anything like distinctive. I'm getting like, yeah, prototypical grandmother stuff. And it's fine if you want to have like an abstract character, as it were, like Thomas Mann, like with Death in Venice, the boy in that book. It's like, yeah, he's kind of like he's more abstract in a certain way, and that's fine. Like that works for me because he's distant and he represents something, but like there's still moments, there's still tidbits, there's still glimpses and gestures and whatever that like gives me something to work with mentally. This is just like, yeah, okay, stereotype grandmother, moving on. I didn't get a rich information surface here.
I mean, the cook in the sheep's head, I think, was trying to do the labor on that. I just revert back to my older point.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, I'll drop it. But
Well, no, I mean it's not that you're dropping it. It's that I mean I think we
pile.
kind of agree
Yeah.
on a lot. But it's better than I wish we vehemently disagreed, but I mean like I think it's just a different shade. Um, and I think that's okay, you know?
Yeah. And this is a guy who I felt I just felt tired a lot of the time reading it. It was interesting to get to know this particular writer, this gentleman here. Um, but it badly made me miss, Faulkner and Beckett. Like oh, it's want
Yeah.
to go home. It's want to go home. I will say, like when I was at the gym later, like I sort of noticed like my thoughts kind of got oddly circular. After
Isn't that the weirdest thing about him? You want to parrot him all the time is what I've found. It's like I walk into the store and I'm like, this is kind of a nice store. There are other stores that are better, but this one's okay. It has several aisles. Other stores have more aisles. And it's like, why am I doing this? It's like, shut the fuck up.
yeah, it's almost like a verbal tick at that point. I mean, I've had it happen with like lecturers I've listened to where it's like, oh yeah, like I listened to so much that like I hear their voice later. And I'm okay with that because like okay, that's a point they made. I learned something, and it's never really happened with writers exactly, except when I was a kid reading like Mark Twain, and it was like just getting that like Southern way of speaking into my head for a little while, which wasn't pleasant. That was not pleasant to feel that way. This was something where I've left a book and felt in that mindset. Like I remember finishing like a section of Kafka and then like getting really paranoid about like why someone didn't message me back and just
Yeah.
like it was and it's like oh no Ray don't Kafka
Yeah.
brain right now, which I thought was like oh but that brought and enriched my experience. Like I was very happy with that little moment.
But you haven't read any Krasznahorkai yet, have you?
No.
Okay. So he has an early novel called The Melancholy of Resistance. And it's a weird novel because there's no like nothing is named as an event, like a war. Like there's all it is a weird circus comes to town and it feels like it's harbinging the world's end. And everyone is giving each other looks and feels menacing. And it's very strange. And the alleys darken and you're being followed by cats. And there's all this stuff, but there's no like named event. And so like then I went to work and I felt like menaced. Like, oh God, it's like the fucking Krasznahorkai novel where it's like there's no named event. You just feel vaguely uneasy the whole time.
Like the worst well the best incident of this was like listening to Malloy on audiobook and coming in from the garage, and I was like oh I need to like just close the garage door. I'd forgotten to, and just turning my head and like it's not more than like 3 yards away. I could see it, like the button, but for some reason I just felt like oh boy, this very basic action is going to be like a 4 day long journey. That'll be meaningless by the end of it. Like, because that's his Malloy. That's just the whole fucking novel of Malloy.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
God.
Maybe that's what it is about Beckett is I find him disturbing. Maybe it's not this. Maybe it's that there's something traumatically real in Beckett that I should just approach head on at some point.
Yeah, it's I mean for me it was even when I was not really getting Beckett, it was like this was something deep. And I remember like just that sort of bare style of his, just like I don't what's going on here with this, and like but then like going to the the I don't know Barnes and Noble and like leafing through a few random books, and I'm like, you know, this isn't as good as Beckett. I don't know why Beckett is this good, but it's not as good as Beckett. Um, and that just sort of shocked me at that time. It was a beautiful moment.
Yeah, I love
Um,
that.
yeah. All right. Well, I think that's a good note to end on here. Well,
Cool. But
yeah.
don't leave.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, bye everybody.
Mhm.